It is a scam when you don't allow everyone to operate on fair terms.
We are the Robin Hoods of sports betting. We take something back from the rich bookies and enable our customers to beat them instead.
G'day everyone, welcome back to our Euros 2021 live streams on the Trademate Sports Betting Podcast. Today we will be talking all things quarterfinals. So Switzerland versus Spain, Italy, Belgium, Czech Republic versus Denmark, and the big one, England versus Ukraine. If you have any comments, questions, anything you want to get off your chest at any point during the stream, please send in your questions via the chat, and we will get to them at some point. Let's get this one pumping today. Lots of likes, lots of shares. I'm excited about this one. I think it's going to be a good one. Let's introduce the bottom of your screen first, and we'll wait for the person that everyone's talking about later. Bottom of your screen, George Gamble. How are you, mate?
Yeah, I'm all good, mate. Not worse for wear in the slightest. Obviously, still buzzing after yesterday. But let's be honest, I think we all want to know how the big man at top's doing, don't we?
Well, you look good, mate. But I don't think the same can be said. New microphone, everything. But Nigel Seeley, mate. What have you been up to lately? I haven't really heard too much from you, to be honest.
I think, mate, I stayed just a quiet one. Stayed home. Had a couple went around George's nan's house.
She welcomed him with another cup of tea. No more lagers for young Nigel.
Couple of tea. Yeah, that didn't really do much, really. Very quiet one for me. But all good.
Yeah, no, England
can
game.
Can I just say, I think the highlight for me on your Twitter feed, oh my word, I was talking to the other half about it earlier because it just cracked me up. It's obviously outside the stadium and you've got a man say, Jesus, he's coming. He's coming. And there's Big Nigel here saying, yeah, but more importantly, did he say that football's coming home? Because if he did, it's coming home.
The best thing about that, right, it's quite funny. So we've gone down Wembley and this guy saying about, he's preaching about the Lord and stuff. And I've grabbed the mic and obviously I've had a few shandies before I grabbed the mic. And I've gone, is football coming home? Is football coming home? Next minute, out of the blue, what you don't see, there's another video after. And this guy turns up who looks like Jesus. He's got a long hair and this big beard. I'll tweet you later. He's come on. And I've got him on and I've got, now he's saying he's coming over. And there was about 300 people watchers going, Jesus says he's coming. Oh, Jesus is coming. And it was a very, very funny day. And
oh, wow.
It's amazing. I'm very lucky. I've got some tickets for the final and the semi-final. Hopefully, the England will be there as well. But days like that don't come around much in your life, But I'm very lucky. Like I say, I'm a bit older than you guys, and opportunities that like that come about for me. So I feel like I was 21 again, and it was fantastic. Loved it. Brilliant.
Yeah, looked like a great day, mate. Bad news for you though, is we've got seems like your arch nemesis has joined the stream here. Old Genie, Ollie Genie, I don't know what you want to call him. He says England will always bottle it. So
I think England teams of many years ago might bottle it, but one thing that I actually thought last night, I thought they've got no fear. The England teams that they've never had anything in their life that's ever been a problem there. The team, the boys who won the Champions League at Chelsea, no fear. Kids at Man City got no fear. And I'm always somebody who's always pessimistic about England's chances because, like I say, the first football match I ever wanted to watch England play was in 1980. And we've never won nothing. But I've got a feeling about these teams. They've got something about them that they and they haven't even kicked in first gear yet. And that is a scary thought, and like I'm always the biggest person to say, listen, I'm going to take England on. They can't be 2-1. They can't bet it. But I'm not so sure now. Not so sure.
All right. Well, we'll get to the outright betting market in just a second, but I actually quite like this question from Jay Meta. He's asked, how are Nigel and George not gubbed or restricted by bookies with their names out there? Well, the George one's pretty simple because George Gamble, funny enough, that's not his real name. But how about you, Nigel?
Well, I am with most of them. I've got one account at the moment, which is an accountant also. I don't really want to play into these rules where we've got to send evidence of funds. I'm not interested. I've got enough people that I can use to get a bet on for me, and I can have a weekly balance with them. I can give bets to someone on every Monday morning. They can place my bets on. I had an account once with one bookmaker that a lot of people used over the years. I had a lot of people use my account that didn't win so much money, and I was a bad gambler, like a really bad gambler 6 or 7 years ago. I mean, really bad. And I've just learned now to bet it. But the thing is, I just don't want to send a load of bank statements in and loads of stuff to have a bet on a full match. I've got other people to do it for me. It's much easier for me.
Fair enough. There we go. Good question there, Jay. Let's have a look at the outright betting market. But just before, as always, quick disclaimer on the video and all the videos on our channel. I or no one else on this YouTube channel is a financial advisor. This is just educational content aimed at improving your knowledge about sports betting. There is a risk of losing money when betting, and what choices you make with your money is completely up to you. Loads of comments coming in, especially from Ollie Genie here. He's very, very sure about Italy and Denmark. He said, trust me, lads, Italy or Denmark. And I'm not going to lie, I actually agree with the man here. I just from I had a quick look through before. If I had to back any teams, they would probably be the two I'd be looking at. What about you, George? Is there any team here out of the last 8 that you're thinking presents a bit of value?
Well, it's difficult for me to say because, I mean, not at the prices now. Like, for example, I'm on, even went after the group stages, I went back on Denmark again on the exchanges, and because I think they'll overcome the Czech side, which I'll talk more about later, and then I'll probably be looking to trade out of that position for a nice, healthy profit on that one. But for me, I don't see value betting with these lot. But again, it's something I'll talk about a bit later on. I do quite like Italy. Potentially marginally overpriced, but like I said, it's difficult for me to say. I mean, in terms of value on what's there, probably not a lot for me, to be honest. I think England, I agree with Nigel. I do have a feeling about England, but still, I'm surprised to see us so short. So I'll be honest, mate, it's difficult for me to say, but no value at the prices that are there now. Yeah,
no, that's fair enough, mate. It's I mean, I feel like I'm searching for value when I say Italy and Denmark. I mean, there's just it's such an unpredictable tournament, isn't it? So it's very, very tough. Anything for you, Nigel, that you like here?
What you say about Italy, I thought Italy was shit against Austria for the game, and then they won in extra time. I thought they were really poor. I didn't think they played well at all. They did what they had to do in extra time. They haven't beaten anyone in their group. I don't think they've beaten anybody. Wales, Russia. Really, to me, that I don't think they're and Switzerland. I don't think they're winnable sides. I don't think the teams that you should really worry too much about. Denmark, we spoke on here at the very beginning. I bet Denmark at 80-1. I bet them at 80s months ago. I bet them at 66s after the group stages. But as an Englishman and as someone who's a proud Englishman who's mad into football, and I would just hate to be in that situation. We got to the semi-finals and England are playing Denmark. It would just be like my worst case scenario. I obviously want Denmark to win, but I like Denmark to play Ukraine. I want them to be in that position. But I think if you were looking for an angle now, the one team that I think would be the bet now at the prices would be Denmark.
Yeah. I mean, they're obviously going to be favoured to beat the Czechs and go through, and then they've got a game against England to make it into the final. So,
one thing I would say though, Alex, I would say just yesterday, that atmosphere was phenomenal, and I think that if England can get through to the semi-finals and the final at home, I thought home advantage was going to be one thing. When I was one of these people who turned around and said England might not want to win the game because it'd be an easier group rather than home advantage. Wow, wrong! I was so wrong. When I went to that game last night, mate, that home advantage is a gold start, and I can see a lot of teams folding. I can't see Denmark folding what they've been through as a team in this tournament. But I think Don't underestimate, and that's why England are 2.873 because it'll be rocking 60,000 people. No one will be able to travel from those countries unless they're living in England. They won't be able to come to the game, and I think that's huge for England, especially in the final. I think whoever England play in the final, they play Italy. They're big favourites. Big favourites.
Yeah, and I'll admit too, mate. I thought the pressure of just the whole narrative around England and it coming home and all that kind of stuff was going to become a bit too much for them. The pressure might get to them, but so far it doesn't seem like that's the case. So I think I can jump in the boat too, and yeah, say that I was probably wrong too. Let's go to the first game then, gents, and evening to you to Jarnell. Oh, and I just missed this one. Sorry, Shane. Yeah, he mentioned that he'd rather take 7 in odds on Sterling to be the player of the tournament rather than take England outright at 3 in odds, which is an interesting angle there from Shane, but I think it's a plausible one too, don't you think, gents?
The best angle is I tweeted about this morning. Raheem Sterling was 28-1 this morning and 10-1 with some bookies to be the sports personality of the year in this country. I think Raheem Sterling, not only what he does on the pitch by being the top goal scorer, what he's doing for the Black Lives Matter movement, what he's doing in racial equality in sport in this country, he's become a figurehead in that environment. And I think if you can bet him at 10-1 or double figures to be the sports personality of the year, if England win this tournament, there's nobody in that England team who's not going to win the sports personality of the year. And I think that Sterling will win that.
Who does he come up against in that market?
Well, at the moment, it's going to be Anthony Joshua. It's going to be Tyson Fury. We've got Olympic Games. We've got Asher's the 100-meter runner. You got Harry Kane, but I think that he'll be the one.
Yeah. All right. Very interesting. All right, let's go to Switzerland versus Spain to kick things off. Switzerland pulled off one of the biggest upsets of Euros 2021 so far with that penalties victory over the favourites France, the World Cup champs. And Spain played a pretty similar style of game against Croatia. They basically, except the other way around, you'd have to say, they basically did everything they could to give Croatia a chance of winning that game. They were 3-0 up with 5 minutes left, and that first goal they conceded was just it's just absolutely baffling. I think me and you, George, both had Spain -1. It's one of those games where, like, you can't really be angry at the bet, can you? But you can be unbelievably frustrated with the result.
Oh, definitely. But the thing is, with any betting or gambling, even if it loses, if you can look back and think, oh, actually, no, I would have still placed that same. It was a good bet. I'd have placed it again. Obviously, with variance, it happens. And the first Croatia goal, my word, that never happens. You rarely ever see that happen, let alone on the international stage like that. But yeah, I mean, first of all, fair play to Croatia. I mean, because I've written them off through the entirety of this tournament. I've been the first to sort of say they're not good enough. They're an Asian squad. They've been relying on sort of individual brilliance, from the likes of Modric and Perisic and what have you. But you've got to say fair play to them. They took the chances when they came along against this Spain side and obviously pushed them all the way in the end. Obviously, I think potentially the tired legs of these older players sort of told the story really in added time, when Spain got those 2 goals to make it 5-3. But yeah, it's a difficult one with Spain. I mean, they're creating all the chances. They're top of all the charts for XG and this, that, and the other. But they've not got a killer up front. They haven't got someone who can just put it in the back of the net, have they? And they seem to squander so many chances, and they need to put that right if they're going to stand a chance of obviously winning this thing. I mean, you kind of look at Switzerland, as you already mentioned, that penalty shootout over France. I thought it was a fantastic performance for them. I thought it was brilliant, spirited. And for me, it was perfect in that, even as a City fan, I like Paul Pogba. I think he's great for France. Shocking for United, but great for France. And, when he scored France's third, I was like, wow, what a goal. And to give it the Cantona-esque type of celebration. And I think it was a typical case of, they thought they'd done it. And fair play for Switzerland for coming back into it. And obviously they made it pay. And I don't know if you've seen in the news or the latest things of the players' mums getting involved and having a go at each other, and it's just carnage in the France camp at the moment. But no, fair play to Switzerland. Obviously, they deserve this tie against Spain. And looking at Spain, they are now unbeaten in 12 internationals. They've won just 5 of those and drawn 7 in the 90 minutes. But they have conceded just once before half time in their previous 7. So, they do tend to usually keep things quite tight in that first half. But for me, I think one big concern I have for Switzerland is Granit Xhaka has been pivotal for them this tournament. He's been brilliant, and he's going to be missing here through suspension after obviously picking up a yellow. And you look at the odds for Switzerland. I think I saw earlier they're around 5.5, and that gives them expected chance of winning of around 18%. But when they've been priced up similarly in recent times, they've actually won around 43% of those games. So they do tend to defy the odds on occasion. Switzerland games, they've been very entertaining of late. 6 of their last 7 games, seeing at least 3 goals. And both teams have scored in 5 of those 7 as well. And funny enough, Switzerland have actually been the first to score in 4 of their last 5 games, and that includes against France. So I do think the Spain side needs to be a bit wary. I don't think they can come into this thinking, last time was just a bit of a slip up, we won't do that again. This Switzerland side, they're good going forward. In my opinion, they're much more dynamic in their attacking play than Croatia are. They allow Croatia the 3 goals, so they do need to be wary here. They need to tighten things up at the back, and I think they will. I don't think Luis Enrique will be happy with the way his side played against Croatia, and he won't kind of want to repeat of that. But looking at it from a different perspective as well, looking at averages, we've got the team that commits the most fouls per game so far this tournament in Switzerland, committing around 12 a game, and they're against the most fouled side in Spain, around 16.8 fouls per game that they win. And with so much on the line, I think trying to hold things defensively, keep things much tighter, this could be a bit bitey, a bit more fiery. I'm waiting to double check on the announcement of the referee on that one. But yeah, as I said before, Spain do create a ridiculous amount of chances, but they haven't got that man up top that they can rely on to get the goals. Murata is very inconsistent. He's got a lot of good qualities, but he's missing a lot of the qualities required to be an out-and-out centre forward, in my opinion. But Spain are averaging around just under 18 shots a game, so they're able to get shots away. But a lot of the time, they're from they're from outside the box, aren't necessarily too testing. So I think if Switzerland can keep things tight early doors, I think they stand a good chance of giving Spain a real game, and it will be a test for Spain. They've got to be cautious. So for me, I do like. I know obviously we mentioned last time, me and Nigel sort of saying about the kind of bets. I think we were talking about offsides before, weren't we? But I feel like I'm a man on the fence. I can see both sort of sides of it, and if I can spot a bit of value somewhere, then obviously I'm happy to take those prop bets, because I think Switzerland will frustrate Spain. I think Spain will be forced to have a few shots from outside the box. And looking at it, Spain, they do hit a high line of shots. I believe it's 3 of the last 4 games they've hit at least 17 or more or something like that. And so Spain 15 shots was at 1.91 on Sky Bet, and the same bet on Bet365 I believe was around on Betfair was around 1.65. So, the disparity between the 2 odds there is telling, and I think Sky Bet have priced that one too high. But I did quite like that over 2.5 goals. I know I said I think it will be tight, but I just think the Spain do allow chances. They allow chances themselves. They do leave themselves a bit exposed at the back, and if Croatia can exploit that defence, this Switzerland side definitely can. But then Spain going the other way, I think, will score. So I think over 2.5 goals, something that's landed in a lot of these Swiss games. That was at evens on William Hill, whereas a lot of other places have priced it up below evens. I think that was a good bet as well. So yeah, 2 for me in this one I quite like. Spain 15 plus shots and over 2.5 goals.
Great stuff, George. The odds market here I forgot to mention. So you can get Spain at about 1.7. The draws at 3.9 at Sky Bet there. And Switzerland you can get as high as 6, maybe a little bit lower than that. Nigel, any thoughts on this game, mate?
I think Spain at 1.72, 1.7 is a gift. I think they'll beat the Swiss. I think a lot of things in these games as well. I think if you looked at that game against the French, when the French did go 3-1 up, they took the foot off the gas. That's all they did. They just eased up, and they become complacent. And the Swiss got the goals, and I don't think the Swiss really deserved anything from it. I thought it was more that the French got it wrong, and the French sat back on their laurels. I think that's what they'll regret. They'll regret that. And I think that the Swiss here are a side that have probably had their had their final. You've beaten the world champions. You're euphoric, and then all of a sudden you've got to go and do it again against Spain. And I think Spain, we say they haven't got a goal scorer, but they've scored 10 goals in the last 2 games. They're sharing the goals. I'd rather be with a team that anyone on the pitch can score a goal, rather than a team heavily reliant on one player and if that one player was injured. And I think they're on a different level. I mean, if you said to me now, at the last 16 stage or the last group stage, for example, if Spain were playing Switzerland, what price would you be Spain? I'll be 1.5 Spain. I just don't, just because they beat the French 1.7, but it's like any sport. It doesn't matter if it's tennis, doesn't matter whatever sport it is. When you have a big win, a massive win like that, there's only one way, and that's down. If you bet someone who knocks out Roger Federer at Wimbledon, the next game he's on court number 12 playing the Latvian number 6. He gets beat. He gets beat though. Oh, I brought the Latvians in. But he does, because he can't keep that. You can't keep. And I think they've peaked. They've peaked. And I think I know there could be goals, but if they do score, it'll be a consolation goal. I think Spain -1 goal. I think Spain will go 2-0 up, take players off, and I think it'll be a real easy win for Spain. I think 1.7 Spain is wrong price.
Very interesting. Love it, mate. Got a few people here who are talking about the both teams to score market, which I can get up on the screen. It seems like there's a few people interested in yes for that. So, yeah, you can get that as high as nearly 2s, actually. It seems like it's a bit of a weird market there. Maybe some money coming in on both teams to score there. So, great stuff. We might as well move on, gents. Probably the biggest game of the quarterfinals here, Game 2. We have Italy versus Belgium. I will get up the odds. We have Italy at about 2.45, sorry. And the draws at around 3.2 there on Sky Bet and Genting Bet. And Belgium, you can get as high as 3.4 in a few places. Italy received a very, very, very stern test against Austria after cruising through the group stages, but they looked beautiful in general play, I believe. They just couldn't really find that killer blow in the box, but class prevailed in extra time. On the other hand, Belgium somehow held out Portugal for 90 minutes to go through. But the big problem for them is the injuries to De Bruyne and Eden Hazard. They look like they will be missing for this game, which really affects their chances of advancing here. Nigel, Belgium, Italy, your initial thoughts, mate?
Well, you made the point about the chances that they're going to, without those two players, the chances of winning the tournament or winning the game or winning the tournament become decreased. But I think the most important thing for me is that without those two players, their chances of scoring goals become harder. And I think the bet here is to go under on the goals. I think under 2.5 goals, under 2 goals, under 2.25 goals, whichever way you want to go for it. I think that's the way to play, because we know how strong defensively Italy are. I mean, they haven't conceded a goal in regular time for a long, long time. And with Belgium without them two players, I think that obviously that diminishes the goals. So I think that this could be cagey. I'm not surprised to see money come for the draw, because I think it could really go to extra time, penalties, that kind of feeling. That's my kind of general feel for it. But I've got no real. I mean, I think the odds to win it are the right prices. I think there's no value in it. But I really do like under 2.5 goals, or under 2 goals, or under 1.5 goals, or under 2.25 goals. I think going against goals in this match is certainly the way to play. It's a huge, huge match for both nations. You know, it's a massive, huge. You know, if whoever gets through this match will be favourites to make the final. I think whoever wins this game will probably favours against Spain. The only reason Spain are a shorter price in the betting to win the tournament is because they've got Switzerland. But I think against Spain, I think both sides will be the favourites against Spain, and I think this will be very edgy. So I'm looking at, I think 1 goal will win it, under the goals all day long.
Yeah, it seems like that's been reflected in the market though, mate. Under 2.5 goals. Just check, yeah, under 2.5 goals at as high as 1.65-ish on the exchanges.
Go under 2.25, go under 2 goals, go under 1.5. I would definitely. So I'm losing my voice, sorry, mate. But I would I'll definitely go under the goals.
Yeah. Okay. And your thoughts on this one, George?
Yeah, pretty much the same, to be honest. Echoing the sentiments of Nigel there. I mean, it's a managerial battle of the Robertos in this one, isn't it? Obviously, Martin is up against Mancini. But yeah, interestingly, before obviously those injuries, you're looking like 4 of the previous 5 nations that have knocked out existing European champions went on to lift the trophy. But I don't see Belgium doing it. I think those losses, particularly to De Bruyne, it seriously hampers them. He's creative. He's probably the best on the planet. So he's going to be an absolutely huge miss. And this Italy side, I think for me, I've always believed, defenses win you titles and win you tournaments, in my opinion. And it's rung true in most things, even like anything from kind of NFL or this, that, and the other. You get to the Super Bowl, 9 times out of 10, it's the side who's got the best defense that wins it. And for me, I think that's very much similar here. You've got Italy, they average the most shots per game and what have you, but it's at the back that they impress me most. They're just so resolute at the back. And like I've said time and time again, they've lost Chiellini, but then they've got Bastoni, best player and best centre-half in the Serie A last season, to just slot straight back in. So I know, if we want to look at expected goals briefly, Italy have got the lowest expected goals against amongst any of the remaining sides at just 2.1. And they've conceded 0 in normal time. They've also allowed only 5 shots on target across their 4 games so far. So they're very good at keeping opponents out. And I just think with Belgium losing that creativity of De Bruyne and obviously Eden Hazard, who's very inconsistent at the moment, he doesn't seem to have that X factor, if you like, but he can turn it on at any point. I just think they'll nullify Belgium all over the park, personally, throughout. So I'm agreeing with Nigel that I see this at least going to extra time, if not penalties. And on Bet365, the market, the game to be decided after penalties at 5.5. I thought that was a potential bet there, and even potentially an Italy clean sheet. But for me, I think that if I was to be on one purely for a value perspective in the way I see the game panning out, it's the game to be decided after penalties either way. At 5.5, I think that would be where I'm leaning in a very low scoring affair, just like Nigel's already stated. Yeah,
I'm just looking at some of the results of these 2 teams. They essentially haven't lost in a very, very long time. I know Italy had an incredible record coming into the tournament, didn't they? I don't know if that was the same for Belgium.
Well, yeah, Italy, they've conceded 13 goals across their last 18 matches at major tournaments, keeping 8 clean sheets. They've only conceded more than once on 1 occasion, and you look at their clean sheet record at the moment, I can't remember how many games on the spin it is now, but it's just insane. It's incredible. Admittedly, they've not played the best of opponents. Also, obviously, I know Niles kind of said earlier, but for me, I'd see them nullifying Belgium here. I think Belgium have been hampered and by that loss of De Bruyne. The creativity that he supplies is so vital for this Belgium side, particularly if you're coming up against a side as resolute as Italy, defensively organised. You need a player like De Bruyne just to find those balls that no one would even think of playing, carving the defence open, and they're going to miss that, and you can't replace him with it. He's irreplaceable. No one can play like De Bruyne. And yet I just see them struggling to break down this Italy side. So for me, I think it'll be a low-scoring affair. I do see it going to extra time, and it really wouldn't surprise me if this went to penalties. Italy's last 3 Euro quarterfinals went to penalties as well. It's an irrelevant stat, if you like, but nevertheless, Italy, they can take it into the deep end. They can take you all the way, and I see that being the case here. I think Belgium could potentially either get on the score sheet. I think Italy could score. I could see this easily being a draw. I'm not surprised to see money come for the draw either. So for me, I think the value bet that I might have a small point or two on is just the game to be decided after penalties, because I think at 5.5, I think that's a little bit high. I think that could very, very easily happen. So that would probably be my play here. But otherwise, as Nice said, go on the unders.
Do you think with the loss of De Bruyne and Hazard that Martinez might switch things up a bit and go a bit more conservative?
I mean, potentially, but never. Who are you going to bring on to replicate what De Bruyne does? Who? You can't.
I think there's 2 things to say about this game, and I think there's 2 teams that have tried to play a bit attack-minded football in games like this: France and Spain. And look, it almost cost them. It almost cost Spain. It cost France. So I think what England are doing is how you win tournaments. Not pretty to watch. When Portugal won the tournament 5 years ago, everyone said it was fantastic. It was a masterstroke. Greece won this tournament, 12 years ago? Didn't score it 0-0 in every game. And I think Belgium have that. I think the Belgian teams in the past. You know, they've all been out there attack, but I think they have a lot of they know how to have to grind out a result. And I think that I think the idea of being entertaining doesn't make you winners. You know, you want to win ugly, and I think all the teams that can win tournaments are teams that can win ugly as well as. And I think England, we haven't seen England from a forward-thinking team yet. We've seen them defensively, and I think the Italians and the Belgium sides are both two sides that can win attractive football games, or they could win messy games. And I think the two of them will cancel each other out. I wouldn't be surprised to see it can be 0-0. I really wouldn't. It wouldn't surprise me at all.
All right. I'm looking forward to this one, gents. It should be a cracker, and that will be Friday night, the second game on Friday night for people in Europe and the UK. Let's move on then to Czech Republic versus Denmark. We'll get the odds up on my screen. 2.15 for Denmark. Draw is at about 3.35. And Czech Republic, you can get as high as 4s. Italy, not Italy. Not many people would have seen this quarterfinal coming. You wouldn't think, especially the inclusion of Czech Republic, who pulled off that massive, mammoth 2-0 victory over the Dutch. The Schick show continues, and talking of big wins, the Danes pulled off one themselves with maybe the performance of the round of 16 with that 4-0 win over Wales. Everyone's second favourite team, you'd have to say, with a clear path to the semi-finals now. Nigel, I know you've got loads of money on Denmark. I feel like lots of people have got their money on Denmark from those crazy prices pre-tournament. But how do you see this one playing out? Do you think Czech Republic can recreate what they were able to do against the Dutch?
Not at all. I don't see them be able to have any chance with them. I think Denmark, from the opening of any game, started to be the fastest tempo team. They're the team that straight off the front foot, straight away, straight into the games, and they set the stall out on what they do. I'm staggered the year 2.1 Denmark again. I mean, let's be fair. When Denmark played Russia, Denmark started at 1.66, I think 1.68, something like that. I don't think there's really. I think they're 1 point. I think Denmark 1.68.
Oh, they closed at that, yeah.
I think that's what they priced. They closed 1.6. I think they started around about 1.76 and went down.
It might have been 1.8 or 9. I think
they went off at 1.7. I don't think there's much really between Czech and Russia. I thought England could have put. I think they were very lucky. Scotland battered them in the first game. Scotland were much the better side against the group stages. Schick got a header and he scored a worldie from the halfway line. But other than that Scotland couldn't score the goal. And I'm amazed they're 2.1. I think everyone's look at this Danish side and think if they were in Copenhagen, where it's rocking, they were home advantage against the Russians in that game, and they went down to 1.7. But I don't think the Czechs are that great shape. I know they beat a Dutch side who, for me, were very poor. The manager, I think, is very poor. And I think 2.1 for Denmark, I think it's the wrong price. I think if they start off with the same intensity as they've started since the first game, since obviously the situation happened with Eriksson, every single game they've started off the front foot and they've been brilliant. Even in the first half against Belgium, their goal XG was something like 2.2 after the first half. They'll be far too strong for a Czech side for me. The Czech side are spoilers. They've got Čuček, they've got Kulfa midfield. They're spoilers. They get in your face. They mix it up. They got a guy who's scored a couple of goals and he's got a bit of confidence about him. But other than that, I think they're a very ordinary side, and I think Denmark at 2.1 is a big price.
Interesting. What do you think, George?
Yeah, once again, think on similar lines. Thought the Denmark price to win the game was far, far too big at 2.1 there. I mean, the Czechs, they've definitely surprised me. I thought they were going to be one of the worst teams in the tournament. So, they've done well. The first team since, I think it was 1980 to deny Netherlands a single shot on target at the Euros. And so they're capable of a solid defensive performance. But let's be honest, they played well, but they were helped by the fact that De Ligt was obviously sent off as well. And momentum is such a huge thing in football, and the Danes have it at the moment. And if they were obviously, like we said, playing in Copenhagen, then I wouldn't give the Czechs any chance. But I still don't give them much of a chance, but any chance at all if it was in Copenhagen. Obviously, this one's in Baku, and as Nigel's already said, that they are very ordinary. Patrick Schick, he's fair play to him. Obviously, and he's chasing a record. He's a goal away from equaling Milan Baros's Czech record for most goals at a single Euros final. But they've got him, who's obviously scored that world. He's got a little bit of a purple patch, shall we say. And yeah, they've got the players that will just get in your face and try and ruin the way that you want to build up. And I just think Denmark have the far superior quality. They've got that bit between their teeth. They've got that momentum behind them after everything that's happened with kind of Eriksen. My only concern with Denmark is, they're arguing, in my opinion, player of the tournament, already won. Simon Kjær, he's a doubt heading into the Wales game and came off injured midway through the second half. So obviously he'll be a big miss if he's not available. And the same with Yusuf Poulsen. He wasn't even in the squad to face Wales. So he's possibly a doubt for this game. But the point is, as a collective, this Danish side, just going forward, they were a joy to watch. That game against Belgium that we mentioned, they were fantastic in that game and were probably unlucky to lose it, all told. But yeah, and also you looking at kind of other sort of stats, the ones I like diving into. Of the teams to progress to the quarterfinals, the Danes, they're the only squad to register 6+ shots on target in all of their matches so far. They always find a way of hitting the target, and I don't think the Czech Republic are going to be able to keep them out, in my opinion. As we said, they're around the odds of 2.1. It gives them expected chance of winning of around 48%, but in recent times, when they've been priced up similarly, they've actually won just over 90% of those matches at around those odds. So, yeah, I completely agree. Do think they're completely overpriced. I'd have them much lower than that. They've been leading at half time in 4 of their last 5 matches. They come flying out of the blocks, Denmark. And I think this is their game easily. I think this is the game that they win. I think it's similar to what you said before about Switzerland and France. Switzerland have already had their final, and I think that game against the Netherlands took a lot out of them. That was huge for them. You could see it in the celebrations. No one expects them to beat Holland. Okay, it's not as big as beating France, but for them, beating Netherlands was just absolutely massive. But in that game alone, 40% of Czech Republic shots on target this tournament came in that game against the 10 men of Netherlands. They're going to struggle to get at this Denmark side, in my opinion. And interestingly, Denmark, they've scored 4 goals in back-to-back matches at Euro 2020, and they're playing great. They switched to a back 3 and they're playing really well. And I can't look past them. I can't see Denmark not progressing ahead of the Czech Republic here. So for me, Denmark to win at 2.1 was the standout. I also quite like the Asian goal line. That was just over 2 at 1.82. So as long as there's 2 goals in the game, we at least get our money back. Because I do see goals in this game personally, particularly with the Danes. So yeah, fairly easy one for me. Fairly straightforward with that. The price being wrong, just Denmark win and the goal line.
All right, very interesting. I feel like it's just another classic case, has been the case with some games this tournament, is how you kind of view the game. Do you see it as like, XG's the way to go? Like, you can't really ignore the underlying data, then Denmark's your team. But if you're
I'm a massive fan of underlying. I'm a massive fan of goal XG. I'm a massive fan. Over a season, fantastic. Over 3 games.
Yeah, exactly, and that's what I'm saying. That's how you can make the case for the Czechs here. Is that
anyone who's going by the data in this tournament will struggle, especially because Denmark have had all 3 of their games in Denmark, in Copenhagen. They'll be a very different side. I think you just have to watch what you've seen with your eyes and ears, and look at what you've assessed and what you think of what you think of these teams. The reason why Denmark are the price they are is because A, they're not playing in Copenhagen, and B is because of the injury concerns that George touched on. But from what you've seen, from what I've seen from the Czechs, there's nothing. I wouldn't be worried about that. And
no.
If you asked me before the Holland game, you said to me what price I'll be Denmark to win over 90 minutes, I'll be 1.8. Just because they beat a poor Dutch side, the market's gone 2.1. I don't buy into it. I don't buy into it that much.
All right, very interesting. Should be a good game. I think either team that wins here it's a great story for either nation to make it to a semi-finals. Let's talk about the main event, gents. England versus Ukraine. I will get the odds up. They are very, very low for England, 1.42. The draws at 4.5, 4.6, and Ukraine quite high there at 10s. England have rocketed into favourites after that win over Germany, and they come up against the biggest outsiders of the tournament in Ukraine, who pulled off a stoppage time winner against the 10-man Sweden. This is coming from a very unbiased view, as I'm not English. England, they should beat Ukraine pretty comfortably. After watching that game, I watched the full Ukraine-Sweden game. If I'm going to be honest, Ukraine are not great at all. I think England are a way classier opponent, but that's just my view. I couldn't believe the odds that came out on England. When it first opened, you could get 1.65 for England. And I think you could get England to win to nil at like 2.5. So if you're one of the lucky ones like myself that got on very early, then well done, because that's I couldn't believe those prices. But George, mate, do you see any kind of angles here? Do you see any value in England at 1.45?
I mean, we should be. I don't like taking bets kind of that low. I mean, we should be absolutely smashing them. If I'm honest, I've not been impressed with Ukraine at all this tournament. Before we came into this tournament at all, I was kind of looking forward to it from a City perspective, being a massive fan of Zinchenko and his story, and I was quite keeping an eye out for how he's getting with the Ukraine, and so I try and watch as many of their games as I can. But they've been dreadful. I think before the Sweden one, they'd only beaten, was it North Macedonia? Obviously losing out to Netherlands in that 3-2 game. Obviously down tools practically against Austria, just thinking they were already through. And even the game against Sweden, if you watch that game, Ukraine shouldn't be here. Sweden, that's how they missed so many times. I think they hit the woodwork 3 times or something like that. You know, Sweden were phenomenal going forward, and they just couldn't break them down. Then obviously Sweden get that red card, and it's a different story. But Ukraine are very, very lucky to be in this situation in the first place, and I don't think they've got it in them to progress further. I mean, it's hard to look at this one without the rose-tinted specs on. It's not even just this tournament. You look at Shevchenko's side; like they've kept just 3 clean sheets across their last 19 internationals. They've won only 6 of those, and but they do. To be fair to them, they boast a decent record against sides currently ranked in FIFA's top 10, winning 2, drawn 3, and lost 2 of those as well. But yeah, that England victory against the Germans, it was. I think that's kind of a catalyst for. It's going to propel us for the rest of this tournament. It was such a massive moment. Obviously, the first time we're beating them in a major tournament since '66, and I think to get that sort of that monkey off your back, I think it was vital for us. I think the confidence with us, as I've already said, momentum is huge in football, and I think the momentum is with us now. And I don't see it faltering at the hands of Ukraine personally. And obviously you said they're at 1.4. I mean, it just feels like a bit of a low price for me. So I was kind of sort of looking elsewhere. Potentially, I think because it will be cagey, I think Ukraine will try and adopt a more resolute approach, more organised approach against England. And I can see the unders coming in unless England decide to kick into another gear and start scoring goals. But you look at it, England they've scored first, I believe in 9 of the last 10, and obviously Scotland being the one they haven't. And there's been under 2.5 goals in all of their last 6. And I just think Nigel already touched on it as well. And we're playing our football the right way. The way we're playing, that's how you win tournaments. I think it is cagey, but I do think we'll take maybe 1 or 2 chances when it comes to us, but I don't see us maybe blowing out. And I do think Ukraine will be there to concede, but I think it's just going to be a tight, cagey affair for both sides, knowing that there's a semi-final place at stake. I don't see there just being a hatful of goals. Obviously, Ukraine they had to play that extra time against Sweden. Obviously, I doubt they'll be fatigued. No, these are fit professional athletes, and obviously there's a fair few days between now and obviously when they play. But for me, I do see momentum being on the side of England, so they'll have the initiative. And yeah, 3 of England's 4 games so far, they've been level at half time. I mean, it's such, as I said, a cagey affair, everything on the line, semi-final place. England are solid defensively. I think we can say that now. Before, I wasn't sure if it was just more luck more than anything. But yeah, Stones and Maguire at that back, you sort of feel comfortable with them there, dealing with everything in the air. They can play with the ball at their feet. They're both being it out well. So we're kind of covered in all aspects. But we are quite conservative in attack. And it remains to be seen if that goal that Harry Kane finally scored, if that's sort of, again, a catalyst for him to score a couple more goals because he looked like he was struggling. But I think we could potentially see another half-time draw in with England going on to get the win. And the odds on that for a half-time draw at 2.25 didn't look too bad to me. And the under 2.5 goals was at 1.8. But with that, I'm relatively wary that after that result against Germany and, Ukraine being very, very poor, that, England could get 2 or 3 here. So it's difficult on that one. But I do quite like the half-time draw. I think I'd maybe have a small amount on that there.
Yeah, Nigel, any chance you think of England being complacent going into this one after obviously such a resounding win, and then on top of that, facing the worst side in the competition if you go by the betting odds?
I think the first thing is I don't think England really were that resounding. I think they played well. They did what they had to do, and they played against a pretty poor German side and got the job done. I think we're talking as though England have put on a performance 1-5 or 6-0. It was a nervy game, and England got the ball in the back of the net. If Muller scored the opportunity, we could have had a very, very different game to what we had watched. My only big problem, I think at 1.65 England was a crazy price. 1.4 is also a crazy price. I think the price of England is somewhere between the two, maybe about 1.52, something like that. I think England should probably be. The thing is with England is I got a feeling that I don't think it will help them going to Rome. I think after that win and that George goes on about momentum. I think playing at Wembley again with that crowd is what they want. They don't really want to go around. There'll be no English fans there. Only no one's allowed to travel there. There'll be a few people who live in Rome who are going to the game, and I think it will be a very, very hard thing for those players to lift that game from the high of what they had last night. It's a very small turnaround, but I do think England will win the game, and I think where they'll win the game is I think they'll win the game off the bench. I think he'll go with exactly the same 11 as he started with the weekend. I think he'll play 2 holding midfielders because he doesn't want to lose and he doesn't want to. And every time you see Phillips and you see Rice on the team sheet, you bet under 2.5 goals. In my logic, I think that shows we're defensively strong. But I think where England will get the job done, they'll get the job on by bringing on Grealish and bringing on the flair players in the second half. We haven't even seen Sancho playing this tournament. We haven't even seen Rashford played a big part in the first couple of games. We've never needed to use them. We've never needed to bring them on. But I think when the game does hit a lull, I look at the bench, and England could bring on 3 players on the bench that could win the game against anybody in this tournament. And that's what I think will happen here. I quite like George's idea of going for a draw at half-time, but I think England will win it. I would just bet England to win to 0. I think, you said it was 2.5. I think maybe 2.1. It's
like 2 something now. Yeah, very low. I'll have a look.
I think England will go through. I'm going to see the comment there. Someone said the heat in there is a factor in Rome. Well, it was 32 degrees when we played Croatia in the first game, and that wasn't a problem to them. And the fact is, the game is 8 o'clock at night. So it's 9 o'clock at night at Rome. What would it be? 24 degrees, 25 degrees. That's nothing. I mean, if it's Seville at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, that's when the heat's a problem. The problem with them, and also if you look at the Ukrainian side, I mean, I was in the land of Nod when the Ukraine game was on the other night. I didn't even know what was going on, but I watched the highlights. You
said Ukraine, Latvia, Ukraine.
Sorry,
you were young. Don't worry, you were so terrible joke.
The thing was is that what I did see of it today on the highlights. They were out on their feet, the Ukrainians. They were out on their feet. They played, another 120 minutes of high-intensity football, whereas, England could make 6 changes from that side and still beat the Ukrainians pretty easily. I think 1-0, 2-0 England. Again, job done. Back to Wembley. See how we go for the semi-finals.
Yep. Ashley Wade here says, imagine thinking England are favourites when they were lucky to escape against Germany.
To be fair, that's a silly comment because everything about betting is mathematics. England, we've spoke about every single game in these quarterfinals. England are 1.4 to win in 90 minutes. Well, they to qualify, they're 1.2 to qualify. Of course, they're going to be favourites because they play Ukraine, and then there's a chance they play Czech Republic or Denmark. When they get to the final, it makes it. That's the time to oppose England. No time to oppose England now because in the final, if England were in the final and the market went crazy with patriotic support and crazy support, the time would be to back a Belgium. But of course they've got to be favourites. They've got to be favourites because they're 1.2 to qualify, when all the other teams are like 1.8. It's logical.
Yeah, I mean, I can back Nigel up from a very unbiased perspective too. It makes absolute sense that they're favourites. Maybe they shouldn't be as short as they are, but I mean, they really should be favourites. They've got 2 home games.
Sorry, Alex. Where the value is, if you want to oppose England, where you're going to get the value is in the final. And I think that all the proper punters and all the shrewd punters will come out in the final. If England got to the final and they were playing in Italy, or a Belgium or a Spain, the price on England would be absolutely wrong. It could, because that's where the value will be. England will probably be favourites for them game, quite overwhelming favourites. I don't think they should be overwhelming favourites, but to be favourites for the tournament now, of course they're the favourites for the tournament. They play Ukraine.
Yeah, no, definitely. They have the easiest path to the final out of all the big teams. But yeah, I mean, like we discussed at the start, there's value to be had there on Denmark. Maybe we mentioned Italy too. It's not about I guess where the value is. It's more just saying that England should be favourites right now, no matter what the odds are. I was going to finish off. There was a comment back here that sorry, there's just been so many comments, guys. I haven't been able to get to all of them, but I like this question here from Shane. He says, neutral question for the panel: do you rather just place value bets rather than back to lay value prices on the Betfair exchange? Do you see as trading out as loss of potential full bet price value? Does anyone want to answer that one?
Well, my philosophy on betting, I never hedge anything.
Yeah,
my philosophy is hedges are for gardens, and I think that if you make something value to bet it, why would you give away? If you think Denmark are going to win this tournament at 10-1, they get to the final and they're 2-1. Surely what's the point of giving it back? I don't see. I think you give too much margin to give money back and laying it back. And I understand there's a philosophy of people who are traders who go in and out of markets and trade markets, but you've got to do that with every one of your bets. There's no point in becoming a trader one week and then being a punter the next week. You have to do one or the other. And I feel that you either go one. I think over the long period of time, the safest option is to trade and take the money. But I think if you're beating the book and you've got half a clue, I think stick with your original opinion. That's my personal view. If I bet a golfer and he's too clear and into the final round of a golf tournament, I'm not laying him back at even money. I'm more inclined to have more on him at even money. Yeah. That's just because I made him value at the beginning. He's 2 shots clear, so surely I think he should win, unless he's a complete screwball and he's mentally he can't handle the pressure. Then it's different. But I think most of the time, I think you talk yourself out of bets because I think your emotion comes into it when you're winning and think I can take a little bit of money out of this. So I would always rather stick with it. But if you're a trader and that's what you want to do, and you have not. Most traders don't really have an opinion of the sport at the beginning. They just play numbers.
Yeah,
crack on and do it. Crack on and do what you. That's your. But I don't think you can flip from week to week. Because if you do, you send yourself completely mentally deranged because you're thinking, why have I done this? Why haven't I done that? Why did I do it? You either do one or the other, and that's it.
Yeah, I mean, I think there are people that can have and do both at the same time. I don't think they actively try and trade the market as such. If they find a plus EV bet, they'll take that. But then if it moves so far in their favor, they might hedge out just part of it and take part of the EV, if you get what I mean. But yeah, no, completely.
My point is, if you've done all the homework, and you've done all the work, and you make someone a bet at 33-1, if you've done all the work and they're winning or they're in the final, well, when they're in the final, the only way that might not work out is if you're in the final and you're playing somebody or you're up against somebody you never expected, or something's gone wrong along the tournament, the best player, like for example Denmark, Christian Eriksen, we can't legislate for anything like that. That may have a difference in your opinion on how you see the final without their best player. Things like that. But if you actually make someone a bet, I think you stick with it. My point of view. Yeah,
no, and as soon as you hedge out of a bet fully, you've just lost all that expected value too. I mean, obviously, bets can lose a 33-1 that shortens to a 2-1.
Also, the other thing about betting, it really comes down to how much you need the money.
Yeah, that's a good point, isn't it?
If you're completely skint and you need that 300 quid, cash out and get the 300 quid. If you don't get 300 quid, add more on and go again.
Yeah, no, well said, mate. All right. I think that just about does it. Got a few nice comments coming in here from Ollie Genie. He's been giving you shit all stream, Nigel, but he said, good stream, mate. And how good's this one? Someone says, Alex is a legend. Thank you very much. I'm not going to try pronounce your name, mate, because then I'll really be letting you down, mate. But
is he watching the right stream?
Hey, George, mate. Let's be honest. The check is in the mail, but I mean, a comment's a comment. So we'll go with that. Best bets of the quarter. Sorry, mate.
Timic Robic, a legend in he must be from Czechoslovakia. Legend in Czechoslovakia. If you do Google, actually means dickhead. But that's what it says. I said Alex is a legend, but I'm saying it don't actually mean a legend. If you look at Czechoslovakian interpolation for it doesn't mean what you think it is.
Look, it's not one of your best jokes, Nigel, but it's pretty good considering.
It's from Slovenia.
All right, best bets for the quarterfinals. I'll go to you first, Nigel, mate. Your favourite bet out of those 4 games we've gone through today?
I think Denmark at 2.1. I think Denmark is too big. I think they get the job done. I also like England to win to 0. Probably Denmark. Denmark will be my best bet.
Yep, love it. And George, I feel like the expression on your face shows that maybe Nigel nabbed a little bet from you there, mate.
No, so he discussed it first, so we'll let him have that one. But no, my best pick definitely Denmark at 2.1. But make it a little bit different. I'm going to go with a halftime draw in England-Ukraine. I think Nigel put it perfectly. I think the second half is when we'll see action from the bench, and I think that'll be the game changer for me. But yeah, I can see it being quite tight and cagey, particularly in Rome. So yeah, halftime draw at 2.25 in England versus Ukraine.
Yeah, great comment here from Paul Robinson. I don't think he realised he had caps lock on as he tried to capitalise the first letters. Sorry, Paul, you've had a shocker, mate. But he has put in a great point here. He says, guys, remember, anything can happen. England could not beat Scotland. So, yes, anything can happen in betting, and it's very important to keep in mind as we place our bets. Yes, Nigel?
Where is Scotland now?
They're at home watching England.
I'm watching England in the quarterfinals. It doesn't make no difference.
Yeah, well said, mate. And let's go mug bet for this one for the quarterfinals. I've already placed it. I mean, I placed it at 2.37, so it's definitely not a mug bet, and that was England to win to 0 because that's shortened into 2s at a lot of bookies here. But I think you'd still take England to win to 0 at 2.15. You can get a red zone there. You can get 2.1 at Betfred and Sport Nation. So I know George mentioned that one too, but I think that's a very good bet, gentlemen. I think we put in a superb performance today, especially you, Nigel, mate. I mean, the man's had 4 hours sleep. He's had I can't even count how many Stellas the man's had yesterday. And look at it. You couldn't tell. You couldn't tell by his voice, could you?
Couldn't tell by my eye, could you? There you go. Look at him. No, couldn't tell.
I'm glad I'm not a mirror in your house. My word.
So I say, mirror on the wall. Who's the fairest of them all? And they say George.
You going around to George's nan's house for the England game, Nigel?
I'm not. No, she. I'm not going to see her. No, I'm going to have a mate. To be fair, I need a couple of days rest because I'm going to the semi-final and I'm going to the final. So I need to get my feet up and just get the voice back. Can't be singing Sweet Caroline with this voice anymore.
No, to be fair, my nan was a great host considering she's been dead for 10 years. Like, fair play to the woman.
Yeah. She's always watching over, Georgie.
I hope not always.
Especially at 12. What is it? 11 o'clock now on a what is it? Thursday night, Wednesday night. Fuck, whatever. I give up. All right, where you can find these gentlemen on Twitter at @CGeorgeGamble and George_CGG. Follow both accounts. They're always great information for you all. And you can find Nigel at Seeley_Nigel and check out premiersportsplays.com where George features too. You can check out his Copper America stuff and you can check out Nigel's Euros and Wimbledon. I mean, the man's he's a man of many talents. So make sure to check those out. We will be back on Monday night, European time, to preview the semi-finals. So that should be very exciting. So everyone join along like you have today and send the questions have just been incredible today, or the comments. Most of some great discussion about England there. So yeah, look forward to that on Monday night. But thank you everyone for listening. Please do a quick rate and review of the show. And if you're on the stream still, please give it a like, subscribe, show your friends. It's always very much appreciated. And if you're looking to implement some of the strategies we talked about today, especially the value betting ones, please start a free week trial of Trademate Sports and start your value betting journey. Gentlemen, we will catch up after the quarterfinals and enjoy another England victory. Hey, Nigel?
Hope so. Get my voice back, buddy.
See you, fellas.
Cheers. Take care.